Okay. I'm glad they can't see me. I just want to. As long as the sun's out of Perk's face, I think we're in good shape.
That's right. That's right. One of these days, I should wear my shades and open the blinds again.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Whenever Perk takes us out,
I'm ready. Yep. Happy Tuesday, Miami Dolphins fans. Chris Perkins, your Dolphins columnist for the Sun Sentinel, coming at you with Dave Hyde, your columnist for the Sun Sentinel. Your Miami Dolphins coming off a loss for the first time in 6 weeks. That 5-game losing streak is over. They lost to San Francisco 33-17 last week. This week, the Sunday night game at the Chargers. They've also got a Sunday night game the following week at Buffalo. We'll talk about that. Saturday night game. The Dolphins are going to have back-to-back cross-country night games. That's not going to be a good thing. But getting back to the Dolphins, the big picture here, the offense needs left tackle Teron Armstead back, right? It wheezed and sputtered. Just 2 offensive touchdowns against the 49ers, both of them coming on long passes. The defense got beat by a third-team rookie 7th-round quarterback, Brock Purdy. The defense only gave up 2 touchdowns, but you lost the game and you got riddled by Brock Purdy, especially on 3rd downs. Dolphins couldn't run the ball against the 49ers. They couldn't stop the run. Now, looking ahead, Dave Hyde, a lot of these same issues are going to exist against the Chargers. Probably no Teron Armstead, although we don't know that for a fact yet. The spotty pass protection, the poor run game, the so-so run defense, the inconsistent offense, they'll all be exploited unless they're corrected. Let's dive in. All right, so what is up with this Dolphins offense? We saw Tua looking very unsure and inaccurate in the pocket. How do you quantify Teron Armstead's absence? You made a very good point today in your high five. That the jury is still out on whether the Teron Armstead signing was wise without a backup plan, knowing that the guy has missed 5.5 games per season the last 6 seasons. So, Dave, what happened to this Dolphins offense, and is this a worrisome trend or a worrisome happening on last week?
Yeah, to be honest, my take on the Teron Armstead injury, unfortunate, but to an offense. I mean, look, let's go around the league. What's going on? Buffalo played without a left tackle against New England, and the second string guy had an ankle injury, and he was in there, but and they won. The Jets, the Titans. They lost, but they're in the playoff hunt. The Jets and the Titans and the Chargers played without their star left tackle all season. Okay. So I just think this is something you overcome if you're the Dolphins. I'm having phone problems.
Yeah, Dave, I think we're having some connection problems with you here.
So the problem Sunday, two missed passes he's hit all year. I mean, that's really what it came down to.
Yeah, we're having some connection problems, Hyde. We'll see if we can get this worked out, or we'll see if it self-corrects. Hopefully it self-corrects, because my technology skills are minimal.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, Tua just did not look very comfortable back there in the pocket. And, if I'm not mistaken, this was the first game that he played this season without Teron Armstead. Armstead went out in the first quarter of the Jets game, but Tua didn't play that game. Armstead did not play in the Minnesota Vikings game. Tua did not play in that game either. So this was the first time, and yeah, he really did not look comfortable there in the pocket. And I don't know if that was a reflection on his confidence in pass protection without Armstead being there, because he had time on a lot of those passes.
Yeah. Look, you're playing against a top defense, okay?
Right.
The past month, you've been playing bottom third defenses. You play the top defense. They have stars at every level on that defense. It's a speed. Then you're playing this. Everything speeds up, okay? So maybe it's just, okay, I got to speed up my game a little more. And also, you look, they were taking deeper drops for linebackers, which changed the passing lanes, changed the passing angles. Maybe it's just an adjustment thing that he had to make, or he has to make.
It could be. It could be. Either way, Dave, I don't think that this is something that's going to haunt Tua or the offense for the rest of the season. But what I would like to know when I ask what's up with this offense, Dave, through the first 7 games, this offense scored more than 20 points once, and that was in that Baltimore game. And then you hit that 4-game stretch, and that includes the Pittsburgh game also. You hit that 4-game stretch of where you score 30 or more against the bottom tier teams, and now you get to San Francisco and you only score 17. So, we've talked a lot about the defense, and I'm a fan of the defense. A lot of other people think the defense is shaky. Should there be more concern about the offense than there is right now?
Well, not this week, because now you're playing against a Chargers team that ranks in the low 20s and everything. I mean, they're just a bad defense, which is shocking. They have a defensive-minded coach in Brandon Staley. I'm not really – you talk about bad organizations, and the Chargers are showing you, organizations make a lot of things or mess up a lot of things. And so I don't think the offense will be an issue this week again. You're playing a bad defense. Now, you go against the top-tier defenses, you need more of a sample size going against them, okay? They as you mentioned, when they other than Baltimore in the fourth quarter, they weren't scoring points until the November. Now, maybe it took the offense a while to click in, but you saw that offense. That offense – there were receivers running open, the number 1 rated defense all Sunday, and they, for whatever, Tua was just off. It comes down to that. But should they have run the ball? Well, if you tell me Tua is going to miss passes he's hit all year, yeah, then they should have run the ball more. But remember, they had 4 plays on Sunday, 0 for 7 on third downs. The turnovers played into that. San Francisco had the ball 40 minutes. That's the second most possession time a team has had. And the most possession time a team has had is Buffalo when Miami beat them back here in September. So the offense wasn't on the field very much. And, and so, maybe they do need to run the ball more just to keep control. The question is, against Sunday, San Francisco had the first-rated run defense and 12th-rated pass defense. Well, I'd go against the pass defense more often.
Yeah, but they've got to be able to run the ball, Dave. They've got to find a way, and that's Mike McDaniel's thing. He was the run game coordinator in San Francisco. They got Jeff Wilson from the 49ers. Who he's still their leading rusher, by the way, for the season. But, yeah, they've got to find a way to run the ball. And, speaking of the offense, and we've talked offense, defense, let's go out to our first Twitter question for this segment. And it comes to us from CJB8511. And the question is, if last week was the Dolphins' worst game of the year, isn't that a good thing considering they had the ball with 5 minutes to go to take the lead? I feel like this team has come a long way from where they were at the beginning of the year. And Dave, I'll say this. My first thing is, how do we know that that's the Dolphins' worst game of the year? There's some tough opponents coming up, so you hope that was their best game of the year, and if it was, then it's going to be a good season, right? That if your worst game is going out to San Francisco, the number 1 defense in the league, and you lost in that fashion. Granted, you didn't run the ball. Granted, you got beat by a third-team quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, by the way, the last pick of the draft. But if that's your worst game of the year, you're going to have a good year. So if that's the worst game of the year, yes, that's a good thing.
Look, here's the good news, which brings up. It looked like they were driving down. Mike McDaniel's big brass ones call 4th down and 1. They're a touchdown down, and they're driving down the field to tie it up maybe in the fourth quarter. This quick strike offense showed in Baltimore, as they've showed other times. They did Sunday when Tyreek Hill somehow, again, it's mystifying to me, he gets deep on defenses built to keep him from getting deep. And he did Sunday. They're very quick strike offense. And so a touchdown or 2 down for them isn't, customarily what I'm used to Dolphin teams being down. If they're down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, it's over. So that is the good news to take from that game.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Dave, and really, as we dive a little bit deeper into this offense, and yeah, if that's the worst you're going to do, that's great. But why can't this team run the ball, Dave? Like you have your speed guy in Raheem Mostert, you've got your physical guy with acquired a decent offensive line, right? But if you can't run the ball, again, against San Francisco, 8 carries, 33 yards. Last 2 games against Houston, also 66, so 99 yards rushing, and you're 28.
Yeah, they, for whatever reason, they didn't run the ball. They didn't want to run the ball. They didn't. In Houston, they come out and pass six of the first 7 plays, okay? And that set the tone for what they're doing all day. Against San Francisco, they ran 8 times. So that's a coaching decision. Against Cleveland, the game went over 100 yards rushing. So I'm not sure they can't run the ball. They just didn't want to. They just said, McDaniel said, our strengths are outside passing. Now, that's a strategic question to me. I mean, they're 8 times for 33 yards. That's over 4 yards a carry. That's not awful. You could run the ball. You could have kept doing that. The question, I guess, you're asking is why didn't they keep doing that?
Well, Dave, I mean, they're 28th in the league in rushing at 89.7 yards per game, and I believe that they're 26th in rushing attempts. So you could say that you're playing to your strengths, right, by going to that passing. When you got Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Tua, why would you go away from it? But I would say just as a balance thing and a thing to keep teams, you can throw off of the play action to keep teams on guard. And again, look, you've only scored more than 20 against quality teams a couple of times, right? So, I think they need to run the ball better and more effectively. But you think play to your strengths, and that's leave it up to McDaniel.
Here's what I will say. I've said this a few times, and I'm not alone. They probably left 3 touchdowns on the field just from missed passes by 2 passes. Right. Again, he's made all year. Okay, right. He had a bad day. Wilson was one running free and the balls just sailed over his head. I mean, there were 2, probably 3 touchdowns they left on the field passing, and if they hit those, as they have all year, or certainly the last month, we're not sitting here saying, why didn't they run the ball? We're saying, wow, what an explosive offense this team has. Now, to your point, this would be a game to run the ball. You can run the ball on San Diego. They're awful. Right. Bad defense, and they're bad at stopping the run. You should be able to do what you want, get your confidence back up to going into Buffalo.
Yeah, you should, and I expect that that's what's going to happen here, Dave. And let's go out to our Twitter question again. And this Twitter question is, how well do you think this team bounces back in a big way this week? And they should, right? As you say, the Chargers are terrible. I'm not sure that we have a good quarterback fit there between Justin Herbert, the quarterback, and the coach Brandon Staley. They've had some receiver issues keeping Keenan Allen and Mike Williams on the field. So the Dolphins should bounce back in a big way this weekend. And look, even if they don't win 40-10, you just want them to play a crisp game, right? That they have the eight penalties last week for 68 yards. That's not that's not, an alarming number, but it gets your attention. So there were things like that, drop passes. Jeff Wilson had one last week. So things like that, I'm looking at that more of bouncing back in a big way, playing a crisp, clean, efficient game, as well as the winning margin.
Well, the Chargers aren't a good team. I know we've all built this as a 3-game road trip to define the Dolphins. It's really 2 games. I mean, this game, if you're a good team, you go in and you beat the Chargers. They don't even have a home field. They have to use a silent count at home because the opposing crowds usually goes for the. But look, their defenses without their best player in Joey Bosa. Their offense started four offensive linemen were out last week. Rashawn Slater's been out since the 4th game of the year. Their wide receivers, their version of Waddle and Tyreek Hill or Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and they played a combined combined they played 1 season between them this year. Keenan Allen played his 5th game last week. They're just beat up. And then you throw in, I don't know what their offensive coordinator is doing. They have a guy who can throw deep as well as anybody, and they have one of the lowest per yard pass attempts in the league. So it's bad luck of injuries and bad organization for what they're doing.
Yeah, it is, and so yeah, you're right. And look, as we look ahead, let's migrate over to segment 2 as we talk about this. Dave, looking ahead, are the playoffs still realistic for the Dolphins? I think you would have to say yes, right?
Well, let's turn that around. Who's going to beat them out of the playoffs? Okay, the teams, the Chargers are, I think, the eighth team right now, and they're 6-6, and they unless they get healthy all of a sudden, they're not going to challenge anybody. So, to me, the issue. And it's faded this week a little, but it'll come into play. They win here, it'll be a showdown in Buffalo. Is home field? Home field, is that a possibility? Because having to go to other place for the playoffs, that can be a tough task.
Yeah, that can. And look, David, as we, the Dolphins get the 9th win this week, and you're in, right? That can.
Well, 10 wins will get them in. You're not going to go. If they went 2-4 over these final 6 games, they would get in.
Right.
Maybe not in the way they want to get in, but they would get in.
Yeah. So I would have to say that they're close. They're not in. Let's not put the cart before the horse. But you get this victory, and you're pretty much there. Did San Francisco? You mentioned the linebackers dropping a little bit deeper. Did San Francisco put out any kind of a blueprint for beating the Dolphins, or do you have to have their talent to be able to pull off what they were able to pull off?
Well, again, the Dolphins want to be in the national conversation, right? And their play in November said, okay, we're in national. So how are they going to match up against the better teams? Okay, it's not how are they going to match up against the bad defenses, because you want to go somewhere in the playoffs. How are they going to – San Francisco came out – the Dolphins came out with 2 backs, Ingold and Mostert, and 49ers play their nickel defense, okay, which said – we're scared of your passing game, not your running game. And why wouldn't they be? You look at that first play, and I put a blog out on this today, just that first play. I went and watched it several times in the last couple of days, and it said so much about what Mike McDaniel, why this is. He again, we're having technical problems, I think.
Yeah.
But it said how scared teams are of Tyreek Hill to me, that they put him in motion. The safety just jumped Tyreek Hill as soon as he came out. The cornerback moved off, as they're moved off Sherfield to go to Tyreek Hill. So he's getting double covered right from the first play on, being jumped and leaving guys open in space. So that what McDaniel's done with his offense is fun to watch.
It is, and it's a very creative offense without having a lot of trick plays to it. And we can talk about this later, where I guess the direct snaps to Durham Smythe and Alec Ingold are considered trick plays that got them touchdowns, and I think Cedric Wilson was looking to pass once, but most of the trick with this offense comes in the pre-snap motion, as you said, with Tyreek Hill and the attention that it draws and kind of the distraction that it creates and how it opens things up for others, because you're right. And again, you laid that out very well in your high five today. Again, yeah, you come out with two running backs and you would think a team is like, all right, we're going to stop the run. And San Francisco was like, we're not worried about your run. We still think you're going to pass, and we're going to focus on the pass because that's the big danger of this offense. That's the big threat to us.
Yeah, and yet so there was hocus pocus in that play too, where the backs cross in front of Tua. He fakes a handoff to freeze the linebacker just enough that Sherfield has open space, and Tua has a passing lane, and there's open space there, and so. Very well designed, and obviously the week they thought it, they saw something in the 49ers defense. They could do that, and so look, McDaniel and his staff just keep showing offensively what a great system this is with this personnel.
Yeah, they do an incredible job at devising offense and being able to keep people off balance, and that all obviously works to their advantage. All right, we're going to do something here called, is this significant? And we're gonna talk about a few topics here, and I want to get your opinion on this. Tua played his first game without Armstead against the 49ers. He was not good. We've mentioned that before. Is that significant? And considering it might happen again this week, is that significant?
Well, people want it both ways with Tua. They want to say he's the best quarterback in the league or elite quarterback, and then when Armstead's out, it's like, whoa, he can't overcome that. No, come on. NFL offenses and top offenses overcome missing players, even good players, for short stretches. Now, if you're going to say Armstead's out for the rest of the year, that's how seasons go down. You miss two or three of those players, and the healthy teams win at the end. Okay. So is it significant in the short run? It sure better not be if you are thinking you have a great team.
Yeah, I would say it is significant, but I would say that it's not solely because of Tua and how he played. I would say because Armstead does so much for that offensive line. And when you talk about communication and confidence and identification and all those types of things, to me, that's where the bigger significance of the Armstead absence is. It's not so much of what we saw anecdotally with Tua, it's what we saw with that offensive line. And look, Bosa with the 3 sacks, it wasn't as though he was beating the tackles, Greg Little on the left side and Brandon Shell on the right side. They were doing stunts, and that's communication. And while we're on this, Eric Fisher, the Dolphins signed him, the 2013 #1 pick. He probably doesn't have a whole lot left in the tank, or else he wouldn't be out there. Just as a little sidetrack, how significant is that? I think it helps with your depth, and I think it shows that that they thought they needed to improve. I don't think it's going to be significant, let's see what happens. But is that significant, getting Eric Fisher in here at offensive tackle?
It better not be. I mean, if the only way it's significant is if Greg Little gets hurt.
Right.
It's so bad that you're just grasping for straws and hoping Eric Fisher, because as you said, good tackles aren't out there to be gotten in December. Okay. I mean, the bigger question to me is how comfortable were they with Greg Little as their backup? Because you go into the season knowing Armstead's going to get hurt, because the past 9 years, right, he's missed games every year. He's played half the games the last 2 years about. So you should have had a top left tackle. Greg Little's looked really good at times and not very good at times. And I guess that's what you get with backups, on the offensive line at important positions.
Right, correct. All right, let's go to this one, Dave Hyde. The defense, which just got edge rusher Bradley Chubb, hasn't necessarily traveled well this year. It's allowed at least 27 points in each road game. Is that significant or not?
Yeah, completely. I mean, there's enough body of work out there. Scratching to me, they're letting in about double the points on the road as at home.
Yep.
Okay, and why is that? Why? I mean, they played some good offenses at home. I mean, Buffalo, and they've won games. When people trash the defense, you're trashing specific games.
Right.
Okay, they won the New England game. They won the Buffalo game. I mean, Pittsburgh, they won that game. So to me, it's mystifying that it is inconsistent in that manner.
Yeah, it's mystifying to me also, and I do think it's significant. I don't have the answer for it. You have played some pretty good teams on the road, right? Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Xavier Howard goes out in that Cincinnati game. The New York Jets, who, right now they're a playoff team. Now, Chicago and Detroit, Detroit can score. Chicago, you shut them out in the second half. But, you allowed Justin Fields to set a NFL regular season quarterback rushing record against you. But you come out with the victory. So I do think that stuff is significant, but I don't know why it happens, Dave. The old axiom is defense travels, and you would expect
right.
The offense to be a little choppier. There's missing personnel, but that's just an excuse. I don't know why it happens, but it is significant. Here's another one, Dave, that, you're kind of big on this first category. The Dolphins are just plus 10 in point differential, and now they're -3 in turnover margin. Right. Is that significant?
Yeah, it is. I mean, these are guidelines, okay? Turnovers are an important stat.
Yeah.
I mean, the scoring margin's a guideline of if it's out of whack to, your record, then what it says is you're getting lucky, okay? And there'll be a regression to the mean at some point. The odd thing about the Chargers, and the Dolphins are, let me look at our fifth in turnover margin. -0.3 is 25th. The Chargers are fifth. They get 0.3. So that's about the only category where the Chargers are better than the Dolphins. But yeah, those are, to me, the scoring margin is a guideline of, okay, where you are. But the turnovers, look, the Dolphins had 4 turnovers on Sunday, back-to-back passes intercepted. That was a ball game.
Yeah. I think the turnover margin is definitely more significant than point differential. The point differential, if you play in close games and you get blown out in a couple of games, that could do it. But you could also make the argument good teams don't get blown out in a couple of games, right? So I would say that the turnover margin is more significant. If you want to say the whole thing, I would have to say yes, because turnover margin is significant. Last one, the Dolphins, we mentioned this before, 28th in rushing at 89.7 yards per game, 99 yards rushing the last 2 games. Is that significant that they're 28th and 99 yards rushing the last 2 games?
Well, look, you score in this league by passing. Yep. The strength of this team, as we all know, speed on the outside. Okay, and Tua's ability to read the defenses quickly and get the ball in the right places to them. So you want to be able to run the ball more. I guess my question is, why the past 2 weeks haven't they run the ball? Why haven't they tried to run the ball? It's not that they couldn't run the ball. They could run the ball over Houston if they wanted. To be a great team, you can't have any glaring deficiencies. Okay, you don't need to be a great running team, but be an average one.
Right, I agree. That's why I think that's significant, because 28th, it almost means you can't run the ball. And you did just get Jeff Wilson, and I know there have been offensive line issues from Austin Jackson to Liam Eichenberg to Teron Armstead, but you've got to be able to run the ball more effectively, even if you're just talking about third down, or even if you're just talking about first down, to get you the workable second and short, or second and medium and turn that into third and short. Even if you're talking about being able to control the clock and give that passing game a little bit of a break, you're not going to be able to get teams to drop an 8th man into the box. And everybody's going to play two high safeties because of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. So that opportunity to run the ball effectively is there. You've got to be able to take advantage of it. So I think it's significant. I don't think it's something that's going to keep them out of the playoffs or will necessarily keep them from winning a playoff game, but you need to be able to run the ball. Dave, let's go back out to Twitter here, and we have a question from Jackie Lofton, and we're I guess if we're talking about significant or not, the question is, does the defense make minimal halftime adjustments, or are they just tired in the second half? And we talked about the allowing 27 points on the road, but this is an all-encompassing defensive question. What do you think is that an issue? Either of those?
Well, let's remember they shut out the Bears in the second half. In the Ravens game, they had 4 straight 3-and-outs to the Ravens at the end of the game, which let the offense come back and win it. So again, there aren't across the board. The Lions game, they came out in the second half and were strong. So I don't see an across the board equation, and I don't think it's as simple as halftime adjustments or not. They didn't play awful on Sunday. If Garoppolo was there, you'd say, okay, the defense did what it had to do. But I guess my question is, did they know a guy like Brock Purdy comes in? I've talked to coaches in the past. They study the backup quarterbacks that week, what to expect. If he comes in, here's what he can't do. He doesn't have the arm like the starter. And so did they keep the same game plan as with Garoppolo? Did they change it at all? Did they make adjustments to knowing that? And let's be honest, Brock Purdy was better than I expected. I mean, he came in, He made some great throws. He made some very, very good throws and things you don't expect the last pick, a rookie in the last pick in the draft without working much this year to be able to do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Brock Purdy was good. Like, I don't know if that's how he's going to play for the rest of the season, but he was good, Hyde. Throwing into tight windows, throwing accurate passes. I mean, he almost out-Tua'd Tua. If you can,
he outplayed Tua. Game he outplayed Tua.
Yeah, and he did what Tua does is making those passes, and then the third down passes that he made. So I don't think it's a matter of the defense making adjustments when you look at last week, or if you look at the whole season. This isn't a second half / halftime thing. This is an entire defense thing. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm riding with this defense. They're not ideal, but I think they are a playoff caliber defense. Now, can they win you a playoff game? I don't know about that, but I don't think they're going to lose you a playoff game.
Let's keep in mind to the question here too. You're on the field 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Usually coaches say, if I can get the ball 32 minutes, that'll put us in position to win, because the defense is going to get tired. 40 minutes, you're going to be tired as a defense. Okay, that's right. Just the bottom line there.
Right, and you know what? We had some players on a conference call, on a Zoom call yesterday, and 2 of them were Xavier Howard and Landon Roberts, and I was asking mostly about the pass rush trio of Chubb and Phillips and Ingram, and I didn't go back and ask them, was there fatigue? Because you're right. I mean, you're on that helps explain the third down situation, why the Dolphins were so bad and the Chargers were so good, but a long time. Yeah, I think 79 snaps. Let's
remember that's the second most time a defense has been on the field from all teams this year, and the most was the Dolphins against the Bills. So I mean, against great offenses, they have trouble getting off the field, and the offenses had trouble staying on the field. If you want to extrapolate those 2 games into something more.
Yeah, against a couple of playoff caliber teams. So let's that's not a good thing. All right, Hyde, let's migrate into segment three, and this is the Tua versus Herbert debate. Who you got and why? You know, Tua drafted one spot ahead of Justin Herbert, Tua number 5, Herbert number 6. This debate is going to go on. Did Chris Greer make the right pick? Who do you have and why, Hyde?
Well, I'm writing on this for tomorrow in my column, and let's start here. Let me back into this. It's not a binary question. It's not true or false, Ginger or Marianne at this point. They're both shown they're going to have good careers, okay? And both of them will have their own paths to take because they're completely different quarterbacks. You know, I talked to 5 people who make personnel decisions, and they all said Herbert. Okay, and it all came down to he's bigger, he's stronger. You get him in the right system with the right coaches, that's the guy we want. And it was not a diss of Tua. It's a durability issue. They know, and you know the question. But I'll say this: has a better career is going to come down to who's in the better organization, because they're both showed they can play. Now, can they get the right offensive fit for them? Can they get the right players? Marino, you look at Marino's career, the years he had a good defense, he went far in the playoffs. When he didn't have a good defense, when it was all rode on him, he couldn't carry a team. Okay, so it's Bill Walsh, I've quoted him many times saying organizations make quarterbacks, and that'll be the case here.
Yeah, I agree. And if we're talking the talent and physical skill and availability, I'll go Herbert in slight, because look, on draft day, I was a Tua guy. I didn't think much of Justin Herbert. I was out at the Senior Bowl and he was out there. I talked to him and I bought into all that hype of, I'm not sure Justin Herbert is a leader. He's not he's not an extrovert. I know, Hyde, you're shaking your head, and I bought into that.
Well, look, I hear people saying, oh, he doesn't have the it factor. He doesn't have the clutch gene. He has the second most fourth quarter comebacks last 3 years of any, only Derek Carr has more. He has the second most. Why? Because he's constantly being put in that position. So he's not going to convert them all, okay? Because that's just the way it is. But when I hear he's not a leader, he doesn't have it, I don't really know what that means. I look at the stats. Second most fourth quarter comebacks since he's been in the league. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's really good. That's really good. So I would take him, slightly. And let me say this: if we're saying, who's going to be the better quarterback in 5 years based on individual, availability, strength, arm strength, and everything like that, I'll take Justin Herbert. If we're saying current situation, who do you want? I've got to take Tua, because he's got the system, he's got the coach, he's got the talent around him. And as you say, organizations, they're a big response. That's a big part of making the quarterback. So look, we see the difference between Tua in the previous 2 years and this year, that you get a coach, you get a system, you get Tyreek Hill and Teron Armstead, and it makes a huge difference. So right now, today, in the current, with that Tua with the Dolphins and Herbert with the Chargers, I'm taking Tua. If you have different circumstances, Herbert in a different system, or just pure durability, physical arm strength, and all that, I'll take Herbert by a slight margin. But I'll say this, Hyde, Justin Herbert does not blow me away. I don't think that he's the next it quarterback. Okay, so I would take him slightly over Tua in a just physical quarterback thing. But today, if in each system, I'll take Tua in the Dolphins system over Herbert in the Chargers system.
Look, Herbert from his first game, when he was 20 minutes before the game, he was told he had to start. He came out and threw 350 yards in Kansas City. He's been great from the start. And that's why, 3 years he's setting records of touchdowns and all that stuff. Okay, now Tua this year has shown he has a talent not only to be a NFL quarterback, which was, this organization had tried to get rid of him twice. Mm-hmm. Tried to replace him with other quarterbacks twice. Okay, but he's shown he's not only a good quarterback, but he has a chance in the right system with the right people to be elite. Right. Top 10 or however you want to define it. That remains to be seen. So, again, I think both of them have good careers. If you're saying who would I pick if we're drafting again, I'd take Herbert.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. That at least it's a good question, right? I mean, it's not like in previous years where you would say that there's a that one guy is the runaway leader. By the way, Joe Burrow, is he still top choice, or is it close or closer? But among those three,
Joe Burrow is number one. I mean, he carried a team to a Super Bowl last year. I mean, he had an awful offensive line. He's getting hit all the time.
Right.
And this year, here come the Bengals again. And if they keep playing like this, they beat Tennessee, they beat Kansas City in the past 2 weeks, and Burrow was very good in each game. I mean, Cincinnati took the right quarterback.
I think so. I think you're right. All right, hi. Let's go out here to our final Twitter question, and it comes to us from Dan K. Barone, and the question is Tua good to go? Now, we saw Tua with that ankle injury. He was limping a little bit. He was on the injury report all week with an ankle injury. He takes a sack in that 49ers game, and he limps a little bit. He's replaced by Skylar Thompson at the end of the game. Mike McDaniel said yesterday he expects Tua to be okay unless there's a setback. So I think that Tua is going to be good to go. Is that ankle going to be a factor of any type, Dave Hyde, whether we're talking about his mobility or it just being in Tua's head that there's an ankle injury, or the Chargers having an aiming point? Do you think the ankle is a factor in any way as we sit here now?
Well, anyway, yeah, sure. Anytime you have any injury, it's a fact. But look, I don't think you have to worry about Tua's mental toughness and, I got an ankle injury. Here's a guy from the first time he stepped on the field at Alabama, has played in high pressure with everything. Look, I'm not worried about it. The question is, okay, can he push off it? Can he throw? You don't have to worry about him running. He's not a runner. Okay. So the question is that can he move in the pocket? Can he throw off that foot? Unless we don't have it looked on replay, when you look at that, it looked like it could have been a really bad injury. And I'm also interested in McDaniel's theory on playing backup quarterbacks. Was he taken out because of injury, or that's twice, 2 games in a row he's let the backup play? Which if it's injury, it's one thing. If it's service time, it's interesting. I think they should do it more in the NFL, but he's the first coach I've seen letting a backup get some time.
Me too. And you know what? As a matter of fact, I did ask Darrell Bevell about that last week, and that's kind of how I prefaced it. I said, usually in the NFL, the starting quarterback just kind of stays in the game, and he does it the whole time. And you guys have, it's been twice that you have replaced Tua, and why is that? And really, Darrell Bevell was saying that they just want to get this guy a little bit of playing time, and it's a situation thing, and the scoring the game as far as
I like that, but
yeah,
most
so
people don't do that. I've never bought into that in the NFL, but good for them. Yeah.
Right. So I like it. I think there's some forethought there and some wisdom, and you don't always have to do it the way other guys do it or the way you've done it in the past. Each situation is unique, and if you want to get Skylar some playing time, or if you want to preserve Tua, then go ahead and do both. By the way, 2 things about Tua here. Are you comfortable having Skylar as the backup? This isn't really about Tua, as opposed to Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater has the knee injury. Some people think that maybe a backup quarterback change is being conveniently made, and this knee injury is being used as an excuse. But this could be significant if there's an injury. The coaches like Skylar. I like Teddy because he's a veteran. But I'll go to the coaches. They see Skylar every day. They see these guys in meetings. Big deal to your backup quarterback situation. If you have the rookie, you just saw rookie 7th round quarterback play.
Yeah, the backup situation is huge. I thought they had the best back in the league in Teddy Bridgewater, and nothing I've seen or heard has changed that. It's a little The knee injury is a little strange. I mean, I'm not saying it's not. I'm not buying into conspiracy theories and all that, but it's unfortunate, I guess, that he had a knee because again, you get a guy with that much experience who, at the drop of a hat, can come in and knows how to play in the NFL. That's a big deal, as opposed to, you know, look, Brock Purdy did it. I know everybody. Oh well, Brock Purdy. Well, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl too, but that's not the blueprint you want to necessarily follow if you have another option. So I would backup quarterback is huge in this league, and I would rather have Bridgewater in there.
Yeah, I would too, but I will defer to the coaches on this one. And and by the way, saying that Brock Purdy, the 7th round quarterback, did it, once that's like, well, Brady was a 6th round pick, right? I mean, it's like going back to that thing.
That's where you should draft quarterbacks.
right, exactly. Hey, one more thing, before we get to our game prediction. One more thing about Tua. How would you feel about either a quarterback sneak from the 1-yard line or Tua scrambling unscripted? Like, is the Tua run totally off the board, and because of that, does it make it a good trick/surprise play?
I mean, look, Marino will brag about a bootleg he had in Chicago, okay, saying, I can run the ball.
Right.
Okay. He did it. Now, do you want him to do it? Do you want to build a plan? No. Look, Tua is small, so the quarterback, there's a reason they brought in that last year, right? To do the quarterback sneak, I get, and he's slow. I mean, he's a slow quarterback. Let's just face it, you have to know your limitations. So I don't want him running out of the pocket by design, and I mean, there are places he could do the quarterback sneak, but that's not his strength. Right.
I agree. And you know what, Dave? I go back and forth when the Dolphins have a 4th and 1 or something like that, and I'm like, man, would you do the sneak here? It's the 10th game of the season or the 8th game of the season, and the guy has a concussion history, an immediate concussion history. So would this be a great trick/sneak play, or do you have to be smart? And I keep coming down on the side of you got to be smart. You got to be smart.
And the best play, which a lot of teams do now, is you run Durham Smythe in motion. He goes under snap.
Right.
Everybody runs up behind him and it's like rugby now. I think at some point they're gonna outlaw that rugby play where everybody can push on the pile and move it.
Right.
But that's the better play on that sneak.
Yeah, and the Dolphins have used that twice. We mentioned trick play, but Alec Ingold had the direct snap touchdown, and Durham Smythe had the direct snap touchdown. So, yeah, I think that's how the Dolphins are going to address that. All right, Dave Hyde, it is prediction time. Last week, unwisely, I submitted my last place spot by picking the upset. I took the Dolphins in a low-scoring 17-14 game, which shows why I'm in last place in these picks. This week, I'm going Dolphins, but I'm going with a very close game. I'm going Dolphins 24-21. I'm saying that it's going to be a choppy game, medium scoring, but I think the Dolphins are going to have to play till the last whistle on this one. So I'm going Dolphins 24-21. Dave Hyde, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going with Dolphins 33-20. I just don't think you look at the Chargers. They aren't the team either health-wise or strategic-wise that you thought they could be in September. Their defense is bad, and their offense is limited when their receivers and their playmakers are out. So I think this is a game that Dolphins, everybody feels good about them again.
Yeah, I think so too. And by the way, before we get out of here, we haven't really talked about this Buffalo game. Yesterday, this game was moved to an 8 p.m. Saturday kickoff. So yes, I think so too, because now you go from 8 p.m. Sunday in Los Angeles to 8 p.m. Saturday in Buffalo. Hopefully there's not bad weather and the Dolphins can get in okay and everything into Buffalo okay and everything like that. But just the short week after being out on the West Coast for 2 straight games, Dave, is the fix in? I mean, what, like, I know.
They're after them. They're out to get them.
Right.
Yeah, the fix is in. in that TV decides these things. Okay, TV decided to flex out the game Sunday night, Chargers, because people wanted to watch that, and then TV decided we want the game Saturday night in Buffalo. So, but it's reminiscent of, for people who go back, when they had the playoff game in Seattle on a Sunday late afternoon, and then they won that game, and they come back and they had to play Jacksonville at noon on Saturday. It's a quick turnaround. It doesn't explain how they lost 62-7 that game. I'm not going there. But in talking to Peter King through the years, he said that was the worst scheduling decision the NFL has ever made in playoffs. And so, if for the stakes of the game, the Buffalo game could be not something you want. It won't decide the game, but it's not the best situation.
Yeah, fame comes with a price, right? People want to see the Dolphins, and so here, Dolphins. Here's your chance to show people what you've got. So yeah, fame coming with a price. All right, that's it for this edition of Dolphins Deep Dive. That's your boy Dave Hyde. I'm your boy Perk. We will see you here next week, noon Tuesday, sunsentinel.com.